G'day, and welcome to another episode of Two Friends Talking Shit about FPL. And well, Andy, what can we say about this game week other than
What a game week. It was nuts. Between the scores, how the teams played, and obviously not just individual player scores, but our results as well. I definitely did not expect the outcome, which I'm sure we'll get into.
yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, wasn't it? It's a very highly wildcarded week, um, and all the wildcarded players didn't do anything. So if you wildcarded, I think you had some trouble this week. And I think maybe the early wildcarders came out a bit on top. Again, I still think the wildcard teams are very similar, whether you wildcarded in 3 or 4 or just before 6. So yeah, I think it's another week of if you had a certain player you did well, and if you didn't have that player you didn't do well. Um,
Oh, Palmer, Cole Palmer, mate.
and again, I didn't have that player.
Mate, I don't think many people had that player, but there were some that captained him, and that,
Mm.
oh, what a captain.
Yeah, and Watkins was the other one there. If you had him and captained him, you got a nice lot of points as well. So,
Hmm.
should we just get into it? You were
Let's
you
roll.
on it? Were you on it? You were -8. You were -12.
Oh, mate. Are we going? Are we doing the teams now? Do you want to go into the teams now?
Yeah, let's hit the teams.
All right.
Get the pain out of the way while we can.
I'll share. I'll go first then. Look, I did. I did go for the minus 12. I was going to go -8, but then I just went for the -12, and I thought, you know what, stuff it. So I got 60 points all up. -12 was down to 48. So I got a decent score considering I did not have Cole Palmer, but my -12 hurt. Raya, look, Raya and Gabriel both got one, and apparently they were very unlucky to walk away with no clean sheet. There was very little expected goals conceded there.
Mm.
Expected goal involvements and goal chances. Alexander Arnold, if we look at his score sheet, could have had Robinson, could have had Robinson, could have had Robinson. Sure, outperformed Robinson, but these for an extra $1 million, I'm seriously considering just shipping him. Is this week the week to do it? I don't know. So my backline: one for Alexander Arnold, one for Gabriel, two for Aina. Rogers is ticking along, mate. 7 points. Saka with a 3. He did have 3 bonus points, but then that got changed. I think when they did balance everything up.
Yeah, I'm not sure how
And
you ever had 3 bonus points.
mate, well, apparently his stats were amazing. He just didn't assist or didn't get a goal, but his stats were phenomenal. Apparently, he was all over the place. Like he was in a good way. He was across everything. Mbermo with 9 pointer and McNeil. This guy saved my game week, I reckon. Good old $4.6 million Dwight McNeil saved my game week with 2 goals scored. Mate, this Everton player, he's just ticking along, and I think I want to keep him. Look at his fixture run; it's phenomenal. Then we've got Solanke up front with 6. I think he was unlucky to get more, to not have gotten more. Watkins with 11 and the captain Haaland fail with the 4. Stolicic didn't play. Smith Rowe with 3 on the bench. Vandenberg with 2. Interesting enough, Vandenberg played another 90 minutes, so is his spot nailed potentially? And Greaves with 0. Played 90 minutes, 2 goals conceded, 1 yellow card, so ended up with 0. So I'm pretty happy with. Look, I'm pretty happy with how things went, considering that I took a neg 12. So Sam, I seriously didn't think I was going to win this week against you, and I thought you would have 2 wins in a row in our
Mm.
one-on-one head-to-head. So I'm glad that it's still even. Otherwise, that would be very bad for me. So we still have 3 wins apiece, and my game week rank went from 920,000 to 1.2 mil. So I've fallen close to 300,000 places, which we're early on in the game week. I'm not fussed, and considering I took a -12, I'm actually pretty happy with that.
Mm.
That's me.
Yeah, yeah, pretty decent for for a -12 to come out with middle of the pack points. I think that's pretty good. You could have come out far worse.
Significantly worse. Yeah. I'm really
Um,
surprised you didn't keep Watkins, to be honest, because you were the one who who actually gave me the idea to get onto Watkins.
Money
Hmm.
is right down to it. So this is me. Did watch the Arsenal game. The goals they scored, they shouldn't have conceded, but they did. So, being 2-0 up and then 2-2, and then managed to get two more goals in the last in extra time. Alexander Arnold with one goal conceded and set anything up. I think I'm with you, starting to be with Trent. I think if I get rid of him and get him to a 4-5 and put the other 3 million into Wood, I can get Wood to Watkins, and I think with the way that the game is shaping up this year, I think the defenders probably we can go lighter. And when Liverpool, I think I'll probably look at that when Liverpool get to the Arsenal fixture. I think then their fixtures turn a little bit. So Trent, Gabriel, and Conser all with one each across the back. I had Mbumo with 9, Semenyo with 7, Saka with 3, Diaz with 2, Wood with 2, Solanke 6, and Haaland 4. And then had a Rodgers 7 sitting on the bench, which is exactly what you want to see. Is your points on the bench. Aina with I think it's 2, and Greaves with none. But yeah, I was watching I was sitting at work and I was watching the 11:30 games, and Bumo scored after 30 seconds, and I'm like, yes. And then Palmer
Again.
scores, and then Palmer scores, and then Palmer scores, and then Palmer scores, and I'm like, I'm going down the toilet. We were watching it. I was just watching it on Goal Rush, and it was just the commentators were just like, "I'm back to Stamford Bridge, and it's another goal at Stamford Bridge." And Palmer's had one ruled offside at Stamford Bridge, and Palmer's hit the post at Stamford Bridge, and I was like, "Oh my god, like this is not going to end well." And then I got some points from Solanke on the Sunday, some points off Semenyo, but it's just not enough to kind of balance out all the ones that are sitting there. But basically, I think I didn't have. I had 1, 2, 3 returners in the whole team. So, but team set up now for a good while. I don't need to make changes this week. I can start banking some transfers. I am. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's no Nicholas Jackson in that team, and there was when we last spoke. I got to half an hour before the deadline, and Raya was spotted with the team. So I kind of ummed and ahed. I had habits. I had moved some people around. I had moved Semenyo in, which saved some money, and I moved my second goalkeeper out to a 4.0, which saved some money. So then I had Havertz and Flecken. And then Ray was in with the team, and I was like, oh, okay. So then I flicked Jackson to Solanke, Flecken. Oh, no, I'd gone up from Flecken. I think I'd gone up to someone else. Then I flicked him to Raya. I think it still works out about the same. I think I would have had a few more points if I'd had Jackson, but
Well,
better set up.
Solanke returned, and
Yeah,
realistically, it was unlucky that Saka, Ray, and Gabriel did not get more points. But here's the thing: if they all got more points, a lot of people's template teams all would have gotten more points. So it's not like. I think the teams that did well this week were the ones who were not very template.
yeah. I think I agree with you. They're the ones who aren't content watchers and things. I think who aren't looking at the stats, who are just going, "Oh, Watkins is good, I'll have him," and this guy's good, I'll have him. And this week, all those players did well. But one thing I am glad about is I did not have a certain Bruno Fernandes who got sent off.
Mate, some content creators still have him. And I'm like, surely it's time to ship him.
I mean, his red card's been rescinded, so he's not going to miss any games. It's been ruled as an error, so I don't think that changes the points for the. If you had him, I think you still have the minus points, but it means he's available for the next game.
Okay. So if someone gets a red card and that gets rescinded, you still keep the -2, but
Yeah, I
the
think
player
so.
just doesn't miss. Okay, that
Yeah,
makes
'cause the
sense.
game
That
was
makes sense.
closed by that point. So I think once the game was closed, that's the points done. So I don't know if you. I don't know because I don't have him, but I don't think you get those points back.
Mm. Oh, fair. Look, your call to bench Rogers, I think that was the right call. I mean, would you really start Rogers over Luis Diaz? No. Would you start him over Saka? No. Would you start him over Mbeumo? Probably not. Would you start him over Semenyo? Semenyo is like the only one you'd potentially start him over, and they both got the same points. So I don't think it was a bad call. Like, 0 weeks, you would start Rogers over Saka. You know what I mean?
And that's it. Like I brought in Diaz, who's playing Wolves, who was struggling to get off the mark. Um, Saka was playing. I don't remember Southampton, um, or Leicester, one of the two.
Leicester.
So
Southampton this week.
yeah, so that was a good fixture. Um, Semenyo I brought in for a couple of weeks while I had good fixtures. There's no point putting him on the bench if I'm going to bring him in. I may as well have gone straight to my other pick. So yeah, the Villa one just looked the harder one. Maybe there was less returns, and the fact that they scored as many as they did was a surprise. But he's turning into one of those ones that you just buy and stick on the pitch. I think he's always going to be able to return. He might return against the big guns as well. But and then you might be able to drop someone else down a bit if you want to get your three forwards. But yeah, if you do that, do you do Rodgers and Watkins though, or is that a bit of an overload? Because Watkins is still I think he got 90 minutes this week, but then Duran came on and got 30 as well.
I think they're going to try and play them both, and they're just trying to see how they can play them both. And realistically, as long as the fixtures are good, Watkins is still in good form, you keep Rodgers and play him also. In a way, I see Rodgers as an extension of Watkins. So if you think Watkins will keep scoring and he's in good form, Rodgers plays as the number 10, right? So reality is Rodgers would be feeding and assisting as long as Watkins is still scoring. So I think if you keep Watkins, you'd keep Rodgers, but you might just always keep Rodgers because it's so cheap. So when you do cycle out of Watkins, Rodgers might end up just being like a bench warmer or like, a fifth sub.
Yeah, and I think any Aston Villa experimentation is going to wait till after this week because I think they play Munich away in the Champions League. So I think they will be very template up to that point. And then once they start to kind of get a feel about how they're going in the Champions League, I think you might start to see Duran maybe play a couple of weekends and Watkins get some rest against the lower teams because he's proved he can score. So if he can score and then say Watkins for your Lyon and your Munich's midweek, I think why wouldn't you?
Look, if Watkins can come on and score a goal, look, if Watkins and Duran, their positions switched and Duran played 60 and Watkins played the 30 but came on and scored, I ain't mad. I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a quick look at the games from the weekend?
Let's do it. Absolutely.
So we're going to use our good friends at Live FPL, even though they don't know they're our good friends, but whatever. So let's kick it off with the first one there. It's, the Molineux, Wolves versus Liverpool. I'm very happy as a Liverpool fan. The way the results shook out means we're sitting on top by a point. So good. But then look who's there. Sitting with his double assist is Diogo Jota.
Mate.
Just after he's moved on from our teams, he pops up with 2 assists. And Kanate, not the defender we wanted in the points. And there's Salah as well. So everyone we've thought about not having anymore is stuck in a goal.
Just on that. Sorry, just on that. Isn't that just FPL in a nutshell? Everyone sends out Salah for Saka. Everyone ships out Diogo Jota. They return. But okay, Kanate, is he a cheap way into Liverpool's defence? Because he's been playing consistently. As a Liverpool fan, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, look, I think he's definitely starting for now. I would imagine he would play the Champions League games, though, so he's more likely to miss the Premier League games, I think. especially the big ones. And even though we saw Kwanzaa play half and then not play again, it's not like he's done and out. To start the first Premier League season, to start that first game as a centre back, he's in Slot's thoughts. He's done enough to show he's good enough. So I imagine that he's gone off to get some confidence back, to get rebuilt, and I can see him coming back into the team, especially in the Premier League and the FA Cup as we go along. Because the way he started is going to knock his confidence. So yeah, Canate and Van Dijk is going to be the two in the middle. But like we see with Robertson, with Tsimikas coming in, I think it's just going to be I think Canate is probably going to be preferred in the Champions League. So yeah, he's a good route in. You're going to start playing the risk, and I kind of feel that Liverpool are almost a bit City-ish this year. When I know Slot plays the 11 that he wants, but he's already played Darwin in a game from the start. He's played Gakpo from the start now. He's played Diogo. He's played there's enough rotation in there for me to be just a little wary about having too many Liverpool assets.
Okay. All right. No, that's a good insight, because I've been looking at Canate thinking, is he actually a viable Trent replacement if you just want access to their potential clean sheets? Now, Ait-Nouri, I'm legitimately looking at him because Wolves have had some difficult fixtures to start with, right? Chelsea, Liverpool, City. Oh, have they played City? Arsenal, was it? But essentially, they've had some difficult fixtures. As their fixtures get better, I mean, look at Ait-Nouri, he's cheap.
And he's a fullback as well. He's a wing back, so he's going to get up there. He's going to get balls in. We always look at him as a potential way. I don't think you're going to get clean sheets too often with Wolves, but you might end up on the score sheet. You might end up with an assist. I think he's as good an option as maybe like the Forest boys or like we say like the Ipswich fullbacks. I think he's up there with those. So yeah, definitely.
Mate, this next game, I'm so happy this was the score. 1-1, Man City. Newcastle showing up. I was close to not captaining Haaland, and I know hindsight's 2020, but I was looking at it thinking, why does it feel like he's just going to blank? Like, Newcastle normally show up and then just do something that people just don't expect, which seems like out of character for the form they're currently in, and that's exactly what they did. But Vardiol, just when everyone ships him out or haven't had him, he goes and scores.
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? This one was tricky because if you watch the game, the Newcastle goal was a penalty, and they're quite a soft penalty, won by Gordon, scored by Gordon. I think had it not been given on field, it wouldn't have been overturned. I think it was only because it was on field and it wasn't clear and obvious, but it was very soft. And City could easily have come out of that 1-0. But, maybe Newcastle, that's them starting their season off now a bit more defensive-minded. They were pretty solid and they did keep City out once it was 1-1. They went 1-0 down and then they looked pretty strong. So, yeah, be a bit of a wait and see what happens with them. They've still got some injury concerns. They don't have a forward. And I'd say until they get Wilson or Isak back, there's maybe no point really investing too hard in Newcastle because the structure's not there.
Gordon is their forward now. Is that legitimately? Is that a potential investment? Right? He's a midfielder playing as a forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's an international break coming up again, so I think if you're investing in him, you're investing in a short term for Gordon, and especially with them being a bit injury prone and stuff. I don't know if we know what Newcastle's going to look like properly yet. They don't seem to have decided on a back line. I mean, you could. If he's gonna be there, he's gonna get him. I think I look at Barnes on the other side. Seems to be very much putting his hand up to show that he didn't get anything in this one, but he's been active. He's been aggressive, and I think he's a bit cheaper than Gordon as well. So he'd be my gamble. I think if I was going to go with the Newcastle player.
All right. This next one. Come on, you Gunners. Although no Saka in sight on the score sheet. Isn't that just such like an Arsenal score sheet where every player gets involved.
Yeah, I mean, um, it's a weird one. This like Arsenal 2-0 up and cruising, and then Leicester pull it back to 2-2 with two quite brilliant goals from Justin, and then it forces Arsenal to go and score another two in injury time. But yeah, Saka involved. He was all over the place. It's frustrating with Saka though, because you watch the game and you want him to be where he's supposed to be, and he's not there. And then the goal comes from where he was supposed to be, but he's moved inside and he's kind of done the inside forward. But what bothers me about Saka is he played 40 minutes in the Carabao Cup the other week. He played 90 minutes midweek against PSG when they were 2-0 up, and like, why does he need to play 90 minutes? So now he's played four 90 minutes in 2 weeks. Like,
Arteta plays him. Look, Saka could be missing a leg and Arteta will still play him. That's the meme going around, right?
Yeah,
Hey, I heard a funny story. I don't know how true this is, but I heard this on the FPL content creator Grapevine. Apparently, Justin from Leicester, he's a FPL fan, like huge FPL fan. Apparently, he follows content creators and he watches the FPL content. And he did the whole wild card in Gameweek 6. He took himself out of his team or benched himself and brought in Rayo and Gabriel because he thought that they would get a clean sheet. And he goes and scores a brace. How good is that?
So you mean to tell me he's bearing down on goal and he's like, crap, if I score this, I'm out myself 12 points.
Yeah, and he still scored. I mean, credit to him. Look, was it a guy called Gianni, I think? He goes through a lot of stats on FPL, and he was showing the pass map and the heat map for Arsenal versus Leicester. And Leicester had very few key passes, goal creating chances in the box, and Arsenal had heaps. So reality is the score for 4-2 and even them being even does not represent on another day that could have been significantly more, and it could have been a clean sheet. It could have been like a 5-2 or a 6-2, a 6-0 or like a 4-0 for Arsenal. And that's the thing which both excites me, but also excites me is because I remember last season Arsenal had a situation against Villa where they were up in the first half, and I think also against Fulham, up in the first half, then it's almost like they came out the second half kind of like chilling, right? And then the other team equalises. And previously, Arsenal couldn't claw their way back in the game. This time, I'm seeing them. The fact that they had equal scores, then they clawed themselves back into the game on a 4-2 win. Oh, I'm really excited for this season, and I'm becoming a massive Arteta fan as a manager. Like just seeing him with PSG, like I was reading through some of the strategies they used when they were doing corners and things like that. Oh my god, I'm becoming a huge fan of Arteta, and this is his 5th year into management. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I think what he's building is quite good. I think this game does show the difference between Arteta and Pep. That I think if City had gone up 2-0, this would have been a 2-0 win. And I think it probably should have been a 2-0 win for Arsenal. But the difference being, from my point of view, when City take their foot off the gas, they can still score. Arsenal took their foot off the gas and looked toothless. They didn't look like they were penetrating. There was a lot of passing the ball around the box. They didn't look like they were going to score, but they also didn't lose the possessions. That's where you're going to get your stats, lots of completed passes, lots of good XGI or possible goals and stuff like that, because they were in the right areas, making the right passes, but they just didn't look like they were going to finish. And then Justin kind of picks the team up, goes, no, have a look at this, smacks one in from outside the box, that gets another one in, and then, like you said, Arsenal have to come back out again. And this season, yet they have been able to do that. My worry would be how many times will they do that? How many times will they get pegged back to an equaliser and then be able to go again? Against Leicester, it's all right. But say you're um, 2-0 up against, doesn't have to be, like Brentford, mid-table, as opposed to bottom table, it's harder to claw your way back in. I think if they'd have gone 2-0 up against Newcastle and then gone back to 2-2, I think it ends 2-2.
Yeah, I agree. And this is where I think they need to just be careful if they're ahead, is how do you really secure that lead rather than even being a little bit arrogant. But hey, Arteta, he seems like someone who's extremely adaptable. So I could imagine he'd be all across, hey, this is a pattern that seems to happen with us. How do we fix it?
And I think the important point here is Arsenal scored 4 goals and were able to respond after going to 2-2 without Odegaard in the middle. So, put him back in, get another option. Like, this is also a game where not a lot changed. You had Havertz and Trossard down the middle, Martinelli on one side, Saka on the other side. They didn't really get changed too much. There was no other option. Like, Jesus wasn't really an option. There was no putting Havertz up front. They kind of, you had what you had. And they managed to continue to push and get a result out of it. So it's good for FPL. It's good for the 3-way title race. Yeah, game on.
Good for Arsenal fans.
So I tell you, this next one, Ipswich Villa. There's someone who caught my eye, and he doesn't play for Villa.
Are you seriously thinking Delap? Because I've heard his name floating around.
He looked quite good. And if he's going to get... So he didn't have many opportunities, but he scored the ones he had. So if he's going to keep popping up with goals, he's a super, super cheap third forward just to have on the bench if you wanted to go with a Watkins Haaland or even a Solanke Haaland with a Saka Palmer in midfield. He's going to give you, and I'd like to see him do it again, but he's been active and involved for the start of this season. They've got a good run coming up.
They've got an amazing run. I'm just looking at it now.
Davis and Greaves in the back line, we should be looking at Delap in the front line.
Yeah. How much is Delap?
5.5.
Okay. Wow, that is a cheap forward. That's like João Pedro cheap.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a João Pedro level, we don't think. But he's young, he's quick. He scored 2 good goals. So, yeah, look, I'd keep an eye on him. I think maybe the next game, international break, and then it might be worth looking if we're thinking of third forward isn't working. If Chris Wood's fixtures turn or if he starts to blank in a few games, maybe a move to Delap and reinvesting the money elsewhere is the right call.
Okay, interesting. I've heard his name floating around, so we'll keep an eye on him. All right, what's next? I'm waiting to get to the Chelsea game. I'm keen to hear your thoughts.
All right, Forest Fulham. We wanted a clean sheet from Forest, didn't we? We
did.
wanted a clean sheet.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a panic before just after the deadline that I heard some rumours that Aina was spotted in a moon boot. And I was like, oh, come on. And in all honesty, I went Aina over any of the other Forest defenders on my wildcard purely for coverage. I think I preferred Moreno or Milinkowski, whatever his name is, Milinkovic. But Aina's the one who had all the traction, so I think you've got to go with him, and he was going to get price rises, and you can't have too many differentials. So I wanted a Forest defender, and go with the one that is getting bought, I suppose.
I mean, 0-1 to Fulham. I think that's that. Let's move on. Look, this next one. Sancho? Is he an option if one cannot get Palmer in? Or is it Palmer? Do we get Palmer over Saka? What are your thoughts here? Like what, where, who, what, how, what, who?
So I think for me, if you can't get Palmer, you don't go for Chelsea. Because is it Sancho? Is it Jackson? Is it Madueke? Is it any of their other players that they've got. It could have been, you could have anyone. Palmer is going to start game week, game out. Jackson might, but then you might get in Kunku coming in, Madueke. You've got I forget the name of the blonde guy who they also have on the wing. Always also begins with M, but there's a lot of options. And if the coach goes, no, this is my starting 11, and we're seeing Sancho, Madueke, Palmer all playing, I'm not sure where Sancho played in this game, because in my mind, Sancho and Madueke played the same position. So then who came off for who? I'm assuming Sancho came off for Madueke. But he's got something to prove, Sancho. He was a Dortmund, he got bought by United, wasn't really given any go, and then has gone to Chelsea and tried to make a go of it. So maybe an option. Again, I feel like it's the same thing, like Chelsea with a big win. Let's see if they blank twice now, like they did last time, or if they're just going to keep rolling.
Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one because Palmer's looking very tempting to bring into the team. I know they've got some hard fixtures coming up, but there's also price rises, and I'm tempted by a good old price rise. I will go many negs for a good old price rise, and I didn't bring in Palmer, surprise. So not yet. So I've missed 0.1 already. Yeah, I think it's a wait and see for me.
So my concern, I don't know if it's concern or my thought with Chelsea would be no one else scored for Chelsea. Palmer scored 4. Arsenal, you had 3 different goal scorers. You've had maybe 5 or 6 different goal scorers at Liverpool. City are the exception because Haaland scored most of their goals, but that man is unmarkable. Spurs, you've got 3 different goal scorers. If you can mark Palmer out of that game, do you win that game?
True. On the flip side, is that I see. Here's the thing: as you were making that point, I was coming to a totally different conclusion to you. I thought you were going to say, therefore, get Palmer, because if they're Chelsea going to score goals, it's going to be Palmer.
Yeah, and I think you do. If you go Chelsea, you get Palmer, but you run the risk of going if someone marks Palmer out of the game, you don't get points.
And do you think he'll get targeted now?
It depends
after 4 goals. Surely teams would be like, watch that guy. Is that how it works? I don't know.
You say that from last season. Watch him because he did what he did last season. This season, he's scoring a lot more from open play. One of these goals was a free kick, which was a great free kick. And the other 3 were open play. So he's scoring more goals from open play compared to last year. But, yeah, I think some of the smaller teams are going to be like man-marking Palmer because he's central to everything. Because, say, Everton, if they play Chelsea and they can man-mark Palmer out of the game, they have enough attacking threat to win it 1-0.
Go McNeil.
That's my point. I think it takes a team like these. They're going to do this when they play Brighton, when they play Brentford, Spurs, who come at them. They're going to find room to go and attack. But for teams who are trying to sit back, and we've seen that already this year, the teams who sat back and defended, Chelsea won 1-0 or they drew or they lost. So you want to be careful. I can see Saka getting points in any game. I can see Solanke getting points in any game. Salah, any game. Palmer, still not sure he was going to get points in every single game. He's young. He can prove me wrong. He needs to be a bit adaptable and be able to change his game a little bit depending on the situation. If he's being man-marked, he needs to learn or needs to show that he can figure that out and figure out how to still get involved. Because you saw, I think my example for Liverpool is when Coutinho was marked out of the game, he had no impact. When he was allowed space or he early got space and got an assist, he then would roll through the game. But if you can mark them out and just limit their play, they talk about. I think one of the stories that I always come to mind is when Man United played. It was AC Milan in the Champions League, and Ji-sung Park sat on Andrea Pirlo for the whole game. He just stayed within 2 feet of him, stopped him operating. United won the game. Pirlo wasn't involved. He had less than 20 touches. That can happen, and that can happen to Palmer.
That's probably a good segue into the next matchup. But I'll tell you what, it sounds like Chelsea playing against another. I think they call it a high line team. Look at me flexing all these terms. I actually don't really know what they mean, but I kind of get the loose idea behind, right? Because I'm just immersing myself in football more this year. Anyway, when Chelsea play a high line team like Spurs, for example, there would be a lot of goals. And I'm looking forward to the Chelsea Spurs game this year. I might just load up on Palmer, Solanke, and like Johnson or something like that.
So we'll say a high line is kind of the opposite to a low block. If you saw the Arsenal City highlights after Arsenal went down to 10 men, the low block is the 2 lines of 4 sitting on the edge of the box. It's a low block. It's hard to move through. There's a lot of congestion. A high line is kind of the same, but the rear defense, so the back 4 kind of sit really high up, so on the halfway line or just behind the halfway line. So they're stopping that ball going over the top. But if you can play the through ball, there's a lot of gap. There's a lot of space behind the defenders, which is where you get your attacking threat. Is if you've got a Chelsea, Spurs, Chelsea are attacking, they turn the ball over, they're playing a high line, there's now a through ball to Johnson and he's off down the wing, and there's no one to stop him.
Does that mean playing a high line is dangerous against teams on the counter-attack who have people up front who are very fast?
Yeah. So this is where City concede their goals. So if you look at, again, that City-Arsenal game, they were playing a high line. Their defensive line was halfway into Arsenal's half. So you had both teams full 11s or full 10s in a half of a pitch, so a quarter of a pitch. So if there's a turnover and you can have Saka go through the middle, I know he wasn't on the pitch at this point, he's got half a half to still be onside and catch the whole defence napping. So that's where you get your turnovers, and that's where City lose their goals, is because when they do turn the ball over and the ball goes over the top and someone races through, and they can get it past Edison, that's where you lose the goals. And that's why they've got 2 quick fullbacks, because they can then pin back in.
I have heard people say Vardiol is a bit of a twinkle toes.
Yeah. Good.
So I guess that helps them prevent losing too many goals on the counter-attack.
And it also leaves them open to easier red cards. Because if they generally play this tactic when they're dominating the game, so it's not as important. But if you let someone slip behind and it's a one-on-one, and the defender brings them down, red card every day.
Okay. All right. Well, mate, Man United versus Spurs. I mean, I'm happy with this outcome, but what is happening at Man United?
This one, I want to know what the result would have been without the Fernandes red card. It happened pretty early. And then, Man United are behind the 8 ball, but you still wouldn't expect them to get 3-0 loss at Old Trafford.
No.
And Spurs ran over them. And is it Ange ball? Is it Ten Hag's tactics? Is it the Man United in general? Don't know. But yeah, they haven't got going, have they, United, this year? They've not really put any points on the board. They haven't looked convincing at all. I heard some people talking about De Ligt and Martinez on the wild card, and I wouldn't go near him if I was desperate
Nah,
at this point.
I'm not touching Man U assets until I see some form. I've seen some crazy stats about Spurs being the most attacking team in terms of chances created so
Yeah.
far, which kind of makes me want to double up on Spurs. To be honest, I'm interested in Johnson. His name's being thrown around, and I know that uh, Pedro Porro is a defender to get, but I'm seriously considering Van den Ven because okay, sure, I just watched a 20-second YouTube short on Van den Ven, but he is quick. He is a quick, big dude. And I don't know. I'm just being like, okay, for that price, potential, more assist potential. Yeah, it could be worth a shout.
Yeah, and Van de Ven's a million cheaper than Pedro Porro. He's 4.5, I think, and Porro's 5.5. So would you go Porro if you needed a Spurs defender?
I don't know. I
I
mean,
still,
Johnson, I'm looking at.
yeah, Johnson. Yeah, I find it hard to pick a reason why you wouldn't go for Johnson, other than there is a bit of rotation risk. You know, you got Madison, Son, Kulusevski. You know, there's a few of them in there. But I think we now know Richarlison's not in thoughts. He's not in the team. Um, so I'd expect maybe to start as you saw. I think Johnson and Kulusevski play in the same spot. So I think it depends on the team they're playing, who plays. But yeah, I like Johnson. I'm disappointed Madison isn't sitting there with anything because I think he's looked quite good. I don't even think he's got any bonus points. Um,
Apparently, Madison is looking might be up for his best season, but he seems to be more assisting the assister now.
yeah, he's doing a lot of play. He looks good and he's doing a lot of that intricate little playmaker stuff, which doesn't get a lot of points.
No,
But it's just the way that the way Spurs attack has changed as well. Like they still have the aerial threat with Solanke that they did with Charlton and with Kane. So they're still putting the crosses in, but they also now have kind of got Solanke's got a bit more strength in holding up the ball and controlling it a little bit more. So they do have those channels as well. So I think you're going to get more assists come from Solanke as he holds it up and plays it across to Johnson and Kulu. So yeah, I think they're interesting to see, interesting to watch, and I'd like to see now that Solanke's back in the team, they do have a bit more gel to see what they can do, and I would like to see them go to one of the one of the big teams. Is what I was going to say. Like, say that Man United aren't a big team. I'd like to go and see
oh,
them play Liverpool, City, and see what they can do, and see what kind of output they get.
look, I'm feeling for United fans. Having
One
been an
up.
Arsenal fan for a while, I'm feeling for United fans. Like, oh man, this wouldn't feel good. And it's Manchester United, right? As in, you would never would you think to hear, oh yeah, Manchester United isn't a hard fixture now. Like when I see Man United in the fixture ticker, I'm just like, eh, that's fine. Like Liverpool, Chelsea, Aston Villa, Man City, yeah. But Man United, I'm almost bunching them in with like a, I don't know, Brentford or a West Ham or something, and that's terrible.
12 years since United won the title. And then, in honesty, it's been 12 years since they've looked like winning a title.
Oofed. 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 That's all I can say.
Oof. All right. On that note, Brentford, West Ham, and Bumo again under a minute. 3 games in a row. Brentford have scored in under a minute, and another good goal. I think if he could just keep pinging them in, I'm interested. My things that I picked up from this, you got Thomas Suchek sitting there with a goal again. I don't think I'd go West Ham at this point. But if he's still involved and he's still getting the bonus points and scoring those goals, and he's been an option before in midfield, if West Ham can pick up some form, I'm probably going to look at there. And also, you got Carvalho um, with an assist. I think if you don't have the money to get Mbumo, I think Carvalho is a good alternative.
Look, my main takeaway is I'm glad I have Mbumo. And next year, my FPL name's going to be Sonic Boom Mo.
What you need now is a player to join the league whose name is something like Sonic, so you can just mix them together.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's move on after that bad joke.
Right, the last two. This Everton Palace. I think this one surprised me. I'm expecting Palace to get going, and they haven't got going. It's like 6 game weeks now, and Eze's had 1 return. Unlucky not to have 2, but that's still not good enough for someone that we were pretty on for a long time. And Everton keep scoring. I don't know what else to say. They just somehow keep pulling it out.
And they've got a good run of fixtures. So I want to keep hold of McNeil, to be honest.
And why wouldn't you? Like, if FPL is about picking those gems of when they, in either game that you play, picking them when they have a good run and holding him, or picking him when their price is low and selling him later. Yeah, I think interesting that Gahey's on the score sheet again for Palace. But why aren't their strikers scoring? Why is Gahey being trusted with the goals? But yeah,
Maybe it's time to bring him back Gahey. And it's annoying because I sent him out because he was dropping and he did drop.
yeah.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. I'm always going to go for the price saving over the point. I'm just a sucker when it comes to the price rises. So, I don't regret that at all.
I talk about players that we all had. Harwood Bellis scoring for Southampton. I mean, I don't know how many points he actually comes away with. He probably got 2, 4, lost 2, maybe come away with 4 points after the goals conceded. I don't know if he got booked as well, but
No bonus.
Yeah, no bonus. And then I got Evan Nielsen sitting there with a goal. That's positive. I think if you're going to go Bournemouth, I think Semenyo is still the safest bet. I don't think you look out anywhere else there, and I don't think we look at anyone with Southampton unless you have to have a super cheap person to make your team work. I don't think we look at Southampton.
Mate, I remember the days when Lallana was on the score sheet regularly.
Yeah.
What happened?
I mean, you look at the team that you could have had from Southampton had they not sold people, and you've got Lallana, Jose Font, you've got Forster. There's a great team there had they not needed to sell players, but that's part and parcel about bouncing up and from the Championship, and that you just don't have the money to hold on to them.
All right, well, let's have a look at this week. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, let me do this. So, nothing. I don't think I've got any plans for this week. This is how I'm going to set up. No changes. Kind of need to hold those transfers, I think, in case everything goes up shit creek again. But we got Raya against Southampton. Alexander-Arnold's away at Palace, which should be fine. Gabriel at Southampton. Concert at Man United, which doesn't scare me. And Bumo at home to Wolves. Semenyo at Leicester. Saka at Southampton. Diaz at Palace. Rodgers against United. And then Solanke away to Brighton. And Haaland at home to Fulham, who's captain. Fabianski on the bench. Wood, Aina, and Greaves. Realistically, I don't know about you, but I think there should be returns from every player on that team.
What are the this? What would be the most FPL thing ever? If this is the week Eze returns.
Yeah, and it's going to be. He's going to do it this week. I can guarantee it. But
hey, speaking of highline and attacking teams, I'm seriously considering captaining Solanke or Saka instead of Haaland. I know I'm just scared to not captain Haaland because if he holds, I'm going to be so behind. But Saka against the 20th best team in the league right now, or Solanke in a very attacking team playing against a team that plays a high line, right? There's goals written all over both of those games.
Yeah, there is. My only thought about Saka is again that he's played a lot of football. Is he going to get? You're probably going to get the 90 minutes, but yeah, they're the two that I'm looking at. I'm not looking anywhere else. I know the vice is sitting on Diaz at the moment, but it's not going to stay there. I think it's yeah. I even like Mbumo at home to Wolves, but I think it's either going to be Haaland or Saka. Um, for me, Haaland at Fulham, like they can be compact, but they can also not be. I think Saka's probably the safest, but then you never know. Like they scored four at home to Leicester, and he didn't come out with anything. I think if City score a few, Haaland comes out with something. I think I've got more chance of getting returns from him. And if I captain him for the rest of the year, I'm not going to miss out on another hat trick.
This is true. Very true. Sam, we started the season with very different looking teams. We have very similar looking teams now.
I think that's wildcard for you at the moment. And I think that happens as well when, you've kind of played the price game and gone up. And then I've had to kind of adapt a little bit and kind of not move on the same players that everyone else is getting, but I can't have too many differentials. I think Semenyo is probably sitting there as my differential. But I can't lose too much ground now because of I'm already 100 points down in our mini league, so can't lose too much ground and have to just make the smart choices. Who is most likely to return? I think these 11 are the most likely to return. And they are going forward. I think Haaland has the highest ceiling. He's the most likely to get a hat-trick in that team. Solanke and Saka, Solanke and Mbumo are the most likely to come out with a blank when I expect them to come out with points. Saka is most likely to come out with a 5-6 pointer. And Diaz is most likely to not play.
I was just about to say, surely Diaz is the one that is most likely not to get the points when you think he will. But yeah, you're right, to not play or to be benched or something.
I think I will see what happens if Diaz starts and plays 90 in the Champions League. I'll probably swap him out for Wood because I think Wood still plays the 90, and I'm not sure that Diaz plays more than 20 minutes. Yeah, he can score a goal in that time, but I would put more money on Wood to return against Chelsea team that can leak goals a little bit than trying to get a return out of Diaz. But if Diaz doesn't play that much in the Champions League over the week, yeah, he'll probably stay in the team as it is.
So no transfers for you?
No, I went in the wild card with a team and a plan. I'm still trying to stick to the plan as much as possible. And I still have the structure. So if I just do this one, so 0.0 in the bank. Oh, I don't have permission to request that action. Okay, whatever.
Oh, you've got to log in again.
That's annoying. I'm not going to do that. So, yeah, it's 0.0 in the bank. And I've got not a lot of wriggle... Oh, forget it. Not a lot of wriggle room to change things. But I still have my price point. So I still have a 10 million Saka in there. I still have a 7.8 and Mbumo, a couple of 5s. So I have the price points that I'm setting. So if I move too early on those, then I'll get priced out of the other ones. And just having wildcarded, it's a bit early to make the moves. And I would like to have a few transfers up my sleeve. And like I said, I think all those players should return. So there's no need to make any moves. And no one is moving in price that I specifically want or I think is going to cost me. And the players that I have are still rising, so they're going to get rises as well. So I don't think I'm priced out of things yet, and I think I'm happy to sit on them because even though some of them like Diaz has slowed, if he bangs in 2 goals again at the weekend, he's going to go up again. So yeah, no transfers as yet, unless something happens. No, we do still have lots of midweek fixtures, so someone could come out with an injury, and then I have to move. So nothing is
Mm.
yet, but also by not moving when I think I have a strong team gives me transfers in the future to fix those injuries to another strong team and not making a rash, quick decision because I have one transfer and I've got to get one person out.
Yeah, very fair. Very fair. And very, extremely out of character. I may be in the same boat as you. I haven't made any early transfers. I've got one transfer just sitting there. It's burning a hole in my pocket. The only transfer I really wanted to make was trying to get Palmer in, but he's already gone up, so there's not much I can do now. In team wise, here's my team for the week.
Can you get to Palmer?
I will need 3 moves, but hey, what's a neg 8?
But
I've
I
taken a
mean,
neg 8 in 1 week and neg 12 in the week after.
if you can get till after the deadline, you got two transfers then. And then if you go and you can kind of keep tabs and Palmer bangs in a couple and he's going to go up again, you only minus flooring to get him in.
Yeah, that's right. And I kind of do want to hold a few transfers up my sleeve before this international break as well. So I will most likely roll, but let's just see. I might bring in Johnson. Who knows? Let's see how I can hold this transfer. So I've got Raya in the back line, Alexander-Arnold, Gabriel, and Vandenberg as my back three. I might start Greaves against West Ham, but I might just go Vandenberg. Who knows? Midfield, I'm playing Rogers, Saka, and Burmo McNeil. I'm leaving Smith Rowe on the bench. I fancy Rogers' chances against Man United as opposed to Smith Rowe's chances against Man City. And up front, I've got Solanke, Watkins, and Haaland. Haaland is my captain for now. I'm seriously, and the vice is on Saka. I'm seriously considering switching them, but I don't know if I've got the gonads for that. We'll see. And on the bench, Stolicic, Greaves, Aina, and Smith Rowe. I may switch Aina and Vandenberg. I don't know. Vandenberg's the only question mark here. I've got to say, last year, I remember feeling like there just weren't that many attractive forwards that I wanted in my team, but this year it's a bit different. I've got Haaland, Watkins, and Solanke. I want Havertz. I can't fit him in there. There's other forwards I want. Nicholas Jackson, I can't fit him in there. There's only 3 forward spots. So this year, it's almost like I can't fit all the forwards I want in, and I don't have the money to put all the mids I want in. So these were the moves I was going to make to bring Palmer in. It makes my defense look absolute trash, though. Gabriel and Alexander-Arnold out, and I was going to bring in Mykolenko at 4.3 because he's come down significantly, and like another 4.5. So I'm just going to put Gay here. It probably won't be Gay here. It'll be like Et Nuri or something from Wolves. How do you spell Et Nuri? Crap. I'm just going to go to Wolves. There we go. There was no way I was going to get that. And then that gives me 5.5 budget where I upgrade Smith Rowe to Palmer, right? And I've still got 0.4 in the bank. I would have a terrible defense, but my attack is just like on all cylinders. It would be hard to get Salah in, but actually it won't, because all I would need to do is downgrade one of my other midfielders, probably McNeil, down to a 4.5. Then I can go Palmer to Salah if I needed to. So I can constantly switch back and forth. Yeah. See, that was a transfer I was going to make. But then once again, I also want Johnson. So I'm considering Alexander-Arnold down to a 4.5 or something. So let's just go. Dibbling. Midfielders, defenders, 4.5. And then that gives me 3.7 in the bank to go Smith Road to, say, a Johnson, for example.
Yeah.
So that was my other option, and that's only a neg 4. But look, if Johnson isn't isn't price rising, I'm in no rush to make that move.
Yeah. Would you go Van de Ven?
Yeah, I would actually. Sorry, that was the other one I was looking at. It was Van de Ven in the back line. So it would be like Trent down to someone at 4.5. I'll probably keep Gabriel for now until his fixture turn, and I might move him down to a 4.5. So my defense, I'm okay. My defense looking just trash and just going all attack. I'm playing an FPL high line.
So because the other thing you could do with the fixtures is it means it'll be a bit more jiggery pokery. But if you moved like a Trent to a Van de Ven, and then move Greaves to Leaf Davis. So last week, Leaf Davis had created more big chances than Manchester City, Arsenal, or Chelsea.
What?
So like he had more touches, more involvement. I don't know if it was Chelsea, could have been someone else, but he had more attacking threat than those teams. So he's got that there. He's got free kicks, corners. So moving a Greaves to a Davis and playing him every week doesn't matter who he's playing against. If he's getting a return or not, like he's got good fixtures coming up, so you could play him, and then your Van de Ven and a Consa, say that's 4.5s in the back line. Get rid of your sixes, and that saves you a bit of money. I think you were saying that your forwards are so many. There is, but I don't really want to double up too much because we're seeing blanks this year. If you've got a Jackson and a Palmer and they blank, you got no points. I think I'm going to want Jackson and Saka or Palmer and Havertz because then you're kind of spreading that around a little bit.
And that's the thing. I want Palmer and Havertz, but I also like Solanke, Watkins, and Haaland.
Can you do Havertz, Palmer, and Johnson?
Yes, that was another option. So it comes down to, I think I want to see how Solanke keeps going. If Solanke's just one goal, and Johnson and whoever else just also get a goal each game, then I'd probably be like, okay, Solanke, I'll sort of let you go and maybe bring in a Havertz instead. But I kind of want to see, because a bit of me is expecting Solanke to score a brace, score a hat-trick.
And it's who's taking the Spurs penalties. I don't think we know yet as well. So considering who the penalty takers are as well, because you could easily go, Havertz, Jackson, and Johnson, and then you got no penalty takers. Whereas if you had Saka, Palmer, Solanke, you got penalty takers in the mix. So there's extra points there, and that's one of the reasons you had Bruno at the start of the season. Like bit of a weird one. He's going to take the penalties, probably going to score the penalties. Didn't get any penalties.
There we go. Well, this has been a long episode, but team, let's see how I'm intrigued to see how this weekend goes. I'm keen to see who you end up captaining and who I end up captaining, because I honestly don't know. I don't know yet, and it'd probably be between Saka, Solanke, or Haaland, and then finally international break after Gameweek 7, right? So there's another 2-week break.
Yeah, I think it is. And the captains, I'm kind of caught between, do I make a differential captain to gain some ground back, or do I stick with the crowd and go Haaland and just not lose more ground for now until, rejoin the peloton until it's time to break and go for it towards the end. Like it's hard. I don't know. I will inevitably. What am I doing this week? I'm between my day and my night shifts, so I will be up and watching the first game. So that means I'm inevitably going to change my mind with 30 seconds to go.
All right. Well, until next week, team, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.